university that is only limited by what course you've enrolled in. What do you want to take in this university?
People get to think. They get to ponder what the connection is between some idea or some tool or something, let's just say, that's external to me and my own work, my own life, the things I really care about. They get to do it together. So we've been experimenting with a lot of different ways that people can feel a sense of learning with and from each other.
Sense one another's emotions and feelings and pain and joy and all of that. Well, maybe this was something that really could be even more directly dealt with. See, I've never talked, in all the times I've coached, I never really talked about the inner game. I don't talk about, I talk in reference to quieting the mind. I refer to stuff, but I don't ever tell them that I'm teaching them the inner game. I've never shown the book to the team ever. I've given it to a lot of players who needed some help at times, many times.
Yeah, with executives, that's one of the most valuable things they say. With a coach, I've got some time to just reflect instead of being push, decision, decide now, faster. It's like I can think back and I can think deeper, and the coach isn't going to push me to come up with the answer or anything like that. I can really circle around, and at the end of the session, I can say I don't know, which wouldn't be acceptable in the board meeting.
I don't know yet.
John Whitmore and colleagues of his, and John had been going on about this for years. I mean, he had been trailblazing coaching in organizations.
Because when I start notice the shadow, and I really invite you to start notice your shadow if you want, because when you start notice your shadow, you discover that it's always with you. I mean, you can, it always appear here and there. It's part of you.
Really focusing on how can I pay attention to what's in front of me there. The relationships component, it was stuff that I had been training with colleagues and friends to help me get to that point, even with the coach that was in the ring with me. And then the last piece of really focusing my execution. This was really helping me to see in the moment, in the match, okay, this doesn't define who I am, whether I win or lose. A lot of the principles that Tim talks about in the inner game of tennis. And I was able to continue to be there, second by second, minute by minute, and be in the match.
Now, my sense of that is, if that's what you're doing, I hate to think what the quality of that coaching is like, because you have to, if your own well-being, you have to recuperate mentally.
People learn from each other. The reason they didn't raise their hands, they didn't trust each other.
Now everybody wear the mask almost every day, And in a way, what's happened was, for me, was like just take out the mask. Not only wear mask, but take out the mask.
Intuition and a greater creativity.
We choose to make music for a reason. We're inspired usually by what I have found three major inspirations. One is people. People inspire us to say something in music. Nature, the beauty of nature, which is amazing, has inspired so much of the music that we do. And then other great creations that have inspired us, creations in art, in architecture, in literature, in poetry, from the beginning of time.
And they connect the audience that's listening to the speaker telling the story to electrodes. And what they notice is the same parts of the brain that light up in the storyteller upon accessing a memory and a past experience, maybe of courage, maybe of fear, maybe of surprise, maybe of delight. Wherever the center of that emotion is in the brain lights up in the storyteller, it also, at the same time, lights up in the brain of the listener.
Of Ericksonian hypnosis, and And my feeling that Ericksonian hypnosis is, in a sense, a variation on the inner game, because the focus for Ericksonian hypnosis is on the inner awareness and using the tremendous power of our non-conscious mind.
Of just making a choice where there are so many factors to take into account that your conscious brain is not capable of doing it.
So that was my first experience in the inner game of medicine. Because as much knowledge as we have in medicine, and it's extraordinary, it's impressive, it's wonderful. There's another part to medicine, and this is the book I'm writing now called The Heart of Medicine. And that has to do with wisdom.
Which countries have the most immigrants? Where do they come from? How are they distributed across the world? According to the United Nations data from 2019, the number of international immigrants reached 272 million, continuing an upward trend in all world regions, an increase of 51 million since 2010. You may be surprised to learn how many different cultures are within your own team and country. People that live and breathe different cultures that impact the way they communicate, the manner in which they behave, and their values and beliefs. You may realize the importance to acknowledge that you are in a multicultural environment and they need to adapt your communication and leadership style.
About tennis, it's not just about computing, it's actually a mantra that society needs.
What you have to do is unpack it again, like what are they getting that they think they'll lose, right? And can you show them either that they won't lose that or that they will gain things that are more important than what they lose? We work on cost benefit. You have to show people, help people see how it will be literally better for them to behave in the new ways.
So what I found is if I didn't want anything, which I don't, ever, then that made it quite simple for someone to get completely and utterly lost. So not to tell me what they thought I wanted to hear or what they thought the world should hear. They could just, so instead of speaking to me or at me or to the world or at the world, which essentially so often happens, it's most of our human experience.
The biggest success is to get back to the home airport, which is funny because somebody could tell you, well, this is crazy. You just go out and go back and this is all. But if you imagine what's around and what is between the first point and the second point, but we are going in circles. Yeah? Even in thermals we are going in circles to go up.
Porque a única certeza que a gente tem em relação ao tempo é que ele vai passar.
Could not win until he got a guy called Nuno Cobra in Brazil, who's a trainer. He's a mix of mental and physical, who actually helped him to increase the oxygen consumption. And in doing that, he was able to focus more time. So that function, the greatest coach, they don't delegate.
A pleasure and an honor to work with you all these years and to have you as a friend all these years. The topic here is high performance teams, and Tim mentioned this idea of bringing high caliber people together and expecting the team to be functional.
The stories are, you could say, encoded wisdom. All of us know something. All of us have learned something. All of us have had many, many experiences, some beautiful, some painful, but all memorable. And when we tell that story, it could take a minute, it could take 3 minutes, it doesn't have to take a long time. All of that wisdom, all of that knowing, all of that encoded brilliance, the memes of our soul, the hieroglyphics, you might say, of the soul, of the heart, is translated and connects.
Finally, we've got a collaborative culture. So this is meaning and purpose unite. We are truly successful together as the mindset. And this is interdependent.
Change as a verb is, I want to replace something. I want to change something. So it talks more of what we can do.
What activates my own interest. You know, I go from spontaneously because, you know, the body doesn't lie. The body signals our level of interest. You know, this is one level of interest. This is another level of interest. If I look at what intrigued me in this way, what caught my attention, it doesn't necessarily mean I agreed with it. It certainly doesn't mean I understood it.
To open up new possibilities for you to move forward in your life to become who you were meant to become.
You know, when the software becomes cheaper, I mean, it's expensive for them to buy the software, but that's nothing compared to making hardware. So it's only a matter of bringing that down in price.
Yeah.
And you've got an fMRI scanner in your, you know, on your laptop.
We were clear and on the point and all that, even in that moment right there, it just didn't work out. Somebody had a little bit better quiet moment than we did. You know, they got it.
Performance would be the customer's decision performance, the quality of the decision the customer makes, equals their potential for making a high quality decision minus the interference. So let's go back to Stu. Okay, so Stu's decision performance is decision to lead a healthier life for himself.
Vision for organizations was that they become platforms through which people fulfill their purpose and their passion. And it's something that I hadn't been able to do at the bank. It was, you know, I had to cut part of myself off me. Whereas what I believe is that we must be able to bring our whole selves to work and all our passions. And that actually it's very easy to enable this.
Connecting to the wisdom of the body is very practical. And it has to do with only a handful of things. It's how I think about myself, how I move. You know.
And build genuine relationship with them.
You know, people talk about the top 1%. They're not the problem. The context in which we operate is that private property rules everything. When we see rioting in the police in the streets in the United States, the police have one job, which is to protect private property. And we'll give up anything, the environment, we'll create poverty, anything to sustain that. And this country was based on low-cost labor.
So my first impulse when I see people falling back into old habits, how that translates for me is they have gone back to thinking that the old ways of behaving are easier and more rewarding and more normal.
I'm not talking about a near-death experience or you were abducted by aliens or you almost died. Those are good stories too. But some of the small things, the small moments, like the story of me in my closet with my son, Dada, do you have time to catch my bubbles? That's a small story.
Some people think coaching a team is like coaching a big person. But of course it's not. Trying to raise 3 children is not the same as trying to raise 1 child. It's completely different. So team coaching is something else and very interesting, very important area. And so if we take that as the kind of more organizational, cultural level, then also we're going back, and which is one of my interests at the moment, to the impact of neuroscience on coaching. And
has been a window of opportunity to learn and grow and to come to understand people from all different walks. Maybe it's like that in all business, but in ours, it happened to do with race, and that we had so much mixture in our sport of people from different backgrounds and different races.
And some products, like if you're talking about a vacation, a sailing vacation, it's going to be more about once. But then if you're talking about perhaps selling medical insurance, then perhaps it's going to be more about needs. So a lot of it, some products are more need-oriented and some products are more want-oriented.
Every time we say goodbye, I die a little.
Nobody asked the question, so, who am I?